Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentri. We're back in the saddle talking NBA basketball. We had to react to the Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis blockbuster. I mean, one of the most shocking trades that I can remember maybe ever and since I've been alive. I think it might be the most shocking trade, one of them in the history of sports. It was that big, that shocking out of nowhere. But things keep rolling, Tyson. And we're getting close to the NBA trade deadline. I texted you. I'm like, I don't know if there's much was going to happen after this. Well, De'Aaron Fox was traded, and the Sacramento Kings look like they're doing another rebuild as they ship him out to the San Antonio Spurs.
It's perennial. I mean, you can't lose big games if you continue to just kind of try to rebuild all the time. Yeah, it's big brain thinking, and they were ahead of the game. Like, this is why they didn't take Luka in that draft and why they took Marvin Bagley. They knew that they were going to steal the weekend in 2025 when they got rid of De'Aaron Fox and got back Zach LaVine. All things, like, for being serious, it's strange to me to look at some of this stuff right now and see that De'Aaron Fox, his name is so high on the Sacramento Kings all-time stats list. I mean, he's going out as like fourth all-time in points and assists. I know that there's been a crazy shift in the NBA as far as offense goes, but we're old, dude. Like, this guy's not been around long enough to be that high on any team's all-time leaderboard.
I know it is absolutely crazy. I mean, when we're thinking about this, we got the players that we grew up watching, their kids are now starting to make it. Like, we're at that point now. I mean, once we're older, dude, we're going to be like, what in the world? We're going to be a Rolodex of names. But let's lead off here. Full trade from Shams Charania. The Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Sacramento Kings, this is a haul, get Zach LaVine, Nciji Sissoko, 3 first-round picks. So the 2025 from Charlotte, 2027 from the Spurs, and the 2031 from the Timberwolves. They also get 3 second-round picks, the 2025 from the Bulls, 2028 from the Nuggets, and they get their own 2028 back as well. Meanwhile, the Bulls are in here. They get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and then their own 2025 pick from the Spurs. So some movement here. Obviously, the headliners are LaVine going to the Kings, De'Aaron Fox going to the Spurs. Let's start from the Spurs perspective, because Wembanyama continues to showcase, like, this dude is, like, here now. And I think that moved the timeline up in San Antonio, Tyson. We're like, you know what? We may have thought this could have taken maybe 5 years, but he's shown that we can maybe put some jet fuel in this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just putting a battery in his backpack, and De'Aaron Fox is going to be awesome, playing with him and, playing for the Spurs. Like, he feels kind of like he's going to fit in here, and we'll talk maybe about the guard rotation and how that's going to look for San Antonio, because it might get a little murky. It says maybe a 3-headed monster strong for what they got going on. But there'll be some minutes, that De'Aaron Fox is going to need to steal, because he is that good. And I think it's huge for them from the Spurs angle. I mean, he's 25 years old. This is a guy that you want to be able to pair with Victor Wembanyama. He's on the contract already. You don't have to worry about this stuff. It's beautiful.
I think it's a home run for the Spurs. I mean, bring a guy in who's about basketball. I mean, God, he played for the Kings for so long. He's about basketball, not really the ancillary stuff. And that's what you're looking for if you're the Spurs. You bring a guy in, too, who can run the ball, screen and roll. Chris Paul is older. We'll see if he's still on the Spurs by the time the trade deadline passes, because, like Tyson said, we'll talk about this rotation. It's pretty guard heavy, pretty ball dominant heavy. But you can bring De'Aaron Fox in here, who's going to be the facilitator of the future. Pair him with Victor Wembanyama. I think this is a home run.
It's massive. Yeah, and I misspoke there a little bit. He's got 1 more year after this left on his contract. So he will have to get paid somewhere down the line here. But this is like the move you make, knowing that he is going to get that long-term extension here from San Antonio. It's awesome for them. I don't know how much more you have on the Spurs side of things here, Brad.
Well, the only thing here, I mean, so you have this depth chart now: Chris Paul, the point, Devin Vassell, the off guard, and then Stephon Castle, as the winger. He kind of listed as a small forward. It's really a 3-guard set. He's, got a little size to him, but, he's a primary ball handler if he needs to be. Now you bring in De'Aaron Fox. Somebody's moving to the bench, clearly. Is it Chris Paul? Probably not. Again, he could be gone here. I think it's probably Vassell, and you go with the 3-head of Chris Paul, De'Aaron Fox, and Stephon Castle in your starting rotation. But again, that makes it even more kind of confusing, because Chris Paul is not necessarily a sniper if he's just running around off the ball. Like, he needs to have the ball in his hand to have value, right? Like, we know that, especially at this age. Like, he's been able to shoot the 3 ball a little bit more. Now, De'Aaron Fox is a little bit more of a slasher, right? Like, he can slash, he can do things off the ball. But really, if you want De'Aaron Fox to be going downhill full head of steam, having the lob to Wembanyama, having him in the pick and roll where you really have to stretch if you're going to go a hedge on Fox where you can throw it back to Wembanyama if Wembanyama rolls. If you're going to sit back, Fox is able to hit the three, so you can go at you full head of steam. Like, it's a lot of action there. But if that's the only thing and you have Chris Paul and Stephon Castle who still is trying to find his shot, they become a little bit more guardable, I think. So they're going to have to figure something out in the backcourt. Or else I think the ceiling's not going to be as high as it potentially could, and it looks on paper.
I'm also have visions in my head right now, just like picturing this group just locking somebody down for a couple games of a 7-game series, and just like, oh, you don't get any buckets today, and maybe that's the action that they want to go here. The fit I think is going to be just fine. I think De'Aaron Fox knows how to play with really good players, and he's shown it his entire time going back to Kentucky. I think he'll be able to fit in with Victor Wembanyama. And if you're Wemby, you're looking around like right now, and you're looking at what happens to other superstars on their rookie deals in the NBA when guys don't make moves to surround their star players with any talent, and you are juiced.
Oh, no doubt about it. Let's look at it from the Kings angle here, Tyson, because, this is a team, and rightfully so, that they're a punching bag. They just can't get out of their own way at any point, right? It's just like, God, how many times we talked about, and we're going to talk about these picks, and it's like, wow, they got a haul. I mean, 3 first-rounders for De'Aaron Fox. You get back Zach LaVine. That's huge. Are they going to do anything with it? And that's what everybody's wondering. So we don't know about that. But what we do know is Zach LaVine is coming in. He's going to take over in this guard spot. Not going to be the primary ball handler. I'm curious to see how this works, because now you're looking at a rotation here, or a lineup with Sabonis at center, Keegan Murray kind of that stretch wing, DeMar DeRozan. He's been able to hit a little bit more, but he's more of the mid-range king. Then you have Malik Monk and Devin Carter as the guard. Malik Monk's not a point guard. Zach LaVine tried to handle a little bit more with Chicago, but I don't know if that's necessarily what you want to do. Does Malik Monk go back to the bench? I think that's probably the answer here that Doug Christie's going to go with. So LaVine slides in that 2-guard spot. Devin Carter is now your starting point guard. But it's kind of messy in Sacramento. Now, I think if you're planning for the future with those picks, like, okay, maybe we get it right this time. But, LaVine's a nice little piece to get back. But, I mean, it doesn't change anything in the West.
I mean, screw it, dude. Give the ball to Sabonis. Let him play point. Like, let him just facilitate the entire offense at this point, and have everybody else, like Keegan Murray, you go camp a corner. Malik Monk, you go camp a corner. Zach, go catch these lobs. Like, that's what we're doing here. This is my show. He's a super underrated player, and, we haven't done much NBA stuff so far this season. Everybody knows. Like, go check the stats out if you just want to get a good idea of how Sabonis is playing this season. As far as what it does for Sacramento, I mean, like, Zach LaVine can fill enough of a scoring role here to take some pressure off of Sabonis, but there are way worse ways to kick off another rebuild here. I don't hate this at all from their perspective. It does just feel like a dog chasing its tail over and over again, because almost every trade deadline, you and I have had these shows. We've been talking about some Kings deal that is either added to what they can do or pushed the timeline a little farther away. And this is just another one of those.
Yeah, and for sure. And it'll be interesting, Tyson. I mean, we before we got on here, and we don't like to what do you think about this? Because we want to record and let everything flow. Is there another move coming? I'd be shocked if Sabonis was on the move. Like, you cannot do that to Sacramento. At least, I mean, if I'm sitting there, if I'm in charge, I'm like, I can't do this to this fan base. They have been so loyal, and when they're good, they show up and show out. That the trade now, the face of the franchise, really, in Sabonis, that is crazy to me. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. But, like you said, they've done things in the past where it's like, all right, time to bottom out again. I don't think they're going to do that here. It'll be interesting to see how everything looks. Like, is DeRozan potentially on the move, Tyson? Like, do they move him to a contender? I don't know. But it's interesting in Sacramento. Close out here. What do you think of the Bulls angle? I mean, clearly we talked about this. They got to bottom out at some point, right?
Love it. This is awesome. DeMar DeRozan cannot, he is now, the circle is complete, basically. This is the pick that they give up to the Spurs in the DeMar DeRozan trade, and they get him back. DeMar DeRozan is paired back up with Zach LaVine, but he's in Sacramento now. He's just like the third team here. No, I think this is awesome. There's been word that they're trying to get off Zach LaVine for what feels like a decade now. At this point, it was like they don't want this guy around. Nobody wants to take this guy, and they finally were able to get a deal done. Are you over the moon excited about Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter? Probably not, but the pick is maybe the biggest thing here, and the fact that they can reset a little bit and, focus on the future is huge because they've been trying to put butts in seats for 20 years without much really to show for it.
No, I think, they want Cooper flag.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I mean, if you're sitting there, if you're the Bulls and you're like, let's suck, I mean, we're bad, we're irrelevant, what would change the face of this franchise? The phenom kid from Duke, love or hate. People are going to hate him because he's a Dookie. I'm wearing the shirt. It was another just stamp of a moment against North Carolina. I mean, the kid is special. We'll talk about him. I want to do an episode on him, maybe in 𝐵𝐺𝐻𝐵 Broom, kind of that stuff, but that's college. They're going to have to bottom out. And Tyson, this finally felt like, you know what? You're right. We're pulling the plug on this thing. And it's good. You couldn't keep doing what they were doing. It was just the definition of insanity.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to Rondo, D-Wade, Jimmy Butler, like that era of the Bulls, where we're all looking at them like, come on, eventually you got to just pull the plug on this thing. And we're like 10 years beyond when that was going on, man.
It's nuts. All right, any closing thoughts here before we get out?
I mean, this is the Luka trade, broke the internet, rightfully so, but this is very much NBA. This one felt like, oh, we're back. This is the NBA trade deadline.
Absolutely. I agree. So anything else that comes through the pipe, we'll be covering. I mean, it is Super Bowl week. So if you've been following us and if you're a loyal listener, we got NFL stuff coming for you. If you're just tuning in, if you only like our NBA stuff, we're going to transition to that after the season. So this is a nice way to us to dip our feet back in. So if you're watching on YouTube, smash the subscribe button. Don't miss a single thing we're doing. Hit like on the way out. Share it with a friend. Share it with an enemy. You know the drill. And we'll be back talking football. And it's going to be excited. Our Birds are in the Super Bowl, so we'll have that for you. We'll talk to you guys then. Peace.